Hello, Abigail here with the astrology and tarot energy reading for the full moon in Gemini. This full moon is on the 4th of December 2025 at 5:14 p.m. Central Time. And this one's an interesting one. It's our last full moon of the year. It's in Gemini, as I have said, and the main deal is that it's squaring the nodes. Also important to note that this is the halfway point between eclipses, and the eclipses are currently on the mutable axis, which is Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces, and the nodes are in Virgo and Pisces, thus creating this grand square or grand cross in the sky. And it is going to be a lot. These types of lunations tend to feel like eclipses. We kind of get that eclipse effect whenever a planet comes into a square, but especially when the moon is involved, because these are the lunar nodes. This is kind of a really big farewell. It's also a moment of recognizing where things are not working. It's a moment to also look back at those eclipses back in Virgo season to see what has happened since then, where we have progressed, where we have slowed down, the ways in which things are working and not working. In the sign of Gemini, we have this ability to transmute and to change and shift in a really kind of fluid way. Gemini is the twins, it's like two sides to a coin. But I would go a step further and say it's multi sides to a coin. I find that Gemini is less two sided and more multifaceted, if you will. Also, important to note, we do have a direct Mercury for this moment. It's still in the shadow phase of that retrograde, so we're also being impacted by that retrograde energy. So it's a really big moment of like, oh, this is what's been going on, and this is how things have been happening, and this is how I have been engaging with those things and interacting with stuff. And so it's kind of a bittersweet moment, which is kind of what a lot of the end of 2025 has been. As I just, the noise is me handling my cards. Um, of kind of just being like, wow, this is what happened. And it's been a lot. Most of my clients, myself included, have really been through it this year. It's kind of a theme for 2025, unless you have really unique astrology. This year was very heavy hitting. I would encourage you to go look up where, the basic stuff your rising and sun and moon are, but specifically where the eclipses have been, and where, Gemini and Sagittarius are, because the sun is in Sagittarius. So it's kind of pulled into this full moon moment. But yeah, this is a moment of release. It's a moment of letting go. This moon is at 13 degrees. And that final eclipse in Virgo is also, I think it's at 12 degrees. And that's going to be next year, as we kind of head into that dual axis energy of Aquarius and Leo starting its cycle, and then the second eclipse being this Virgo, eclipse. I think we have a final one at the end of 2026. It's kind of an extended release, and the nodes shift in July. So this is a really kind of pivotal moment as we sit and kind of process the energy. Mutable signs are a lot about process. It is the final sign of every season. It is that kind of slowing down and that shifting and the changing of things. And so I encourage you in this moment to let things shift and change, let things slow down. I mean, while knowing that it's in Gemini, so it'll still be pretty quick, but let the internal world slow down. Let that retrograde energy hit. Let whatever big things that have happened in this past, month or so really settle in. Full moons can be really great time to release things. And while I don't stick to the rules like you start stuff on new moons, you end stuff on full moons. Well, that's a very good cycle to use. I use it a lot. But it's also about letting stuff go. If there's something you've been holding on to, cry it out. If there's a realization you've been avoiding, let it happen. If there's a feeling of just not knowing what's coming, let the lack of knowing exist. It's a time to just be and allow yourself to flow through feelings. The Sagittarius card in the tarot is temperance. which is about this regulation and balance. And just know that emotional regulation is not the ability to be at ease or peace. It is the ability to move between emotions, and if you're neurodivergent like me, between extremes, um, all the time. So allow yourself to flow through your feelings because it is in Mercury, because it is in Gemini. Yes, I'm still affected by the post retrograde shadow, folks, because it is in Gemini. Maybe do something that gets this energy out of your body and your brain, write, emote, move, and feel. There's no other major aspects happening here. We do have an adjacency, not super close, but we are adjacent by like 8 degrees with Venus. And we're also a bit away, about 9 degrees from Mars. So we're in between two of the personal planets, both a benefic and a malefic. And so there is going to be that kind of duality baked into this moment where we're kind of quasi opposed, both Venus and Mars, who do their little love dance in the sky. And so this desire for change and transcendence when it comes to love and relationships, and that goes for all kinds of relationships. And then this desire for action and proof and to transcend um, the restraints that others set on us in Mars kind of push and pull here because there's this desire to connect and this desire to be free. And I think there is a place where both of those things can coexist, but it is always a complicated dance. It is never just the perfect situation. That doesn't exist, and it's not something we should pursue. Um, but there is this fluidity, and I encourage you to embrace it. If you do try to stay fixed in this moment, you will suffer. So be flexible, move through these things. If there's a lot of uncertainty going into the end of this year, let it be uncertain. Not a whole lot of our plans are really going to be getting legs, as it were, until we head into, geez, starting in Aquarius season, but truthfully not until like fully until we get the spring equinox. And even then, we're going to be waiting until Uranus finally goes into um, Gemini for that last time to start its 7 year swing through the sign of Gemini. Um, and even then, we have the node shifting in July. So just know that there's a lot of transition between now and the spring, and then between the spring and the summer. Things will get a little more solidified once we go into like summer to fall, fall to winter. And just so you know, things always happen. Life is never simple and it's never over until it is. Um, but know that this is the energy. Also know that this is ruled by a Scorpio Mercury. This is about honesty and seeing things for as they are, and even sometimes seeing things as a little darker than they even are. But feel those feelings, be emotive, let yourself exist in where you're at. Be fully and honestly yourself in this moment. There's no need, especially in Gemini, to pretend that we are anything other than complex and dynamic and diverse and ever changing little organisms that are on this earth who have some form of sentience, just like all the other things around us that are living. So embrace the creatureness of yourself, embrace the authenticity and the reality of whatever your situation is, knowing that things are going to change at lightning speed moving into 2026. I can feel the energy quickening already. And yeah, any of those big, brave steps that you have just taken in the past few months, believe in them and also honor that you have done really difficult things. And it's going to feel difficult in this moment too. I think some of us it might be freeing, but it's going to be freedom through the pain and through the realization rather than freedom by disassociation or avoidance, which to me is more true freedom. But let's look at the cards. Just know it's very eclipsy, very energetically sticky. But know that this is just a moment of recognition. It's also kind of our last big event of that kind of full retrograde cycle that includes the pre-retrograde shadow, the retrograde, and the post-retrograde shadow. So this is the closing curtain. Know that it's big and full of big emotions. Let's see what the cards have for us. Oh, we got a flyer. Nice. Okay. I'm very Gemini. Also very Uranian, in fact. But starting off, we get the King of Wands. We have been getting a lot of messages about what we really want in the past few months. Also, I think a lot of our manifestations have actually come true recently, but they have come true in the way the universe views them and sees them. So if we have been manifesting happiness in a relationship, but that relationship was never destined to be happy, that relationship is gone. If we've been manifesting more money and a better job, we very likely are in the stage, or possibly right past it or right before it, where we're about to lose the job that we currently have in order to get the new, better one. And so we're kind of in this limbo of will I, won't I, especially with the job market where it is now. But with this King of Wands here, we do know what we want. And even if we haven't gotten the things the way that we want them necessarily, the universe is absolutely clearing the way for our passions. And this moon is an opportunity to really be like, this is what I desire. Because we are under the pressure of a grand cross, we know exactly what the essentials are for us and our happiness. And that may be very different from what it is for someone else. An example for me is I'm very much a homebody. I like ease and peace with lots of interesting things sprinkled in between. And so that is what I manifest. You might want excitement and expansion and travel or transience, or you too might want a very slow, quiet life. But whatever it is, we're getting really clear on it now. And so I encourage you to really soak in and center in and be like, yes, this is what I want. And I'm going to be true and honor that desire and that need. And I'm not going to make myself smaller or minimize those needs, even with the kind of probably, lack of maybe resources or understanding in this moment. All you need to know is what you want. The how to get it's going to come. The where we are on this journey is going to show up. But in this moment, you need to center in and really be like, this at my root and my core is what I need right now. And that can obviously change over time, but in this moment, what I need right now, what I want right now, what I desire right now. And nice little stabilizer card. You have the Hierophant. Within this need and desire, we also have experience and knowledge and guidance from higher powers and also from our own intuition. So allow that to be your guide. Honor what you know and what you have learned. You are both these little acolytes down here and the Hierophant, the teacher. Um, the Hierophant can also represent kind of societal norms, but paired with this King of Wands, it's whatever the norm is for you, whatever the wisdom is for you, whatever the knowledge and the understanding is for you, that is what this moment is giving us. And so you need to honor that. And I know the Hierophant is Taurus, but the Hierophant also reminds me a lot sometimes of Sagittarius, this spiritual guide, this giver of knowledge. It also might be because while I don't think the zodiac is one to one attached to the houses, the ninth house is often associated with Sagittarius, and that's where my sun is in Taurus. So this could just be a me thing. But this accepting and honoring of your knowledge and your understanding, which then allows you to accept and acknowledge and honor other people's gifts and skills and kind of exalted powers and understanding. And so in this moment, trust yourself, trust your guides, trust what you have created in this moment, even if it's kind of half baked, even if it's not fully formed yet. You have been doing the work and you know what's coming. And if you're at the beginning of the journey and not in the middle, you have already learned and attained so much. Take what you know about yourself in this moment and start to craft the life that you desire and the life that you want. And over time, it will shift and change, but it has to start from somewhere. And in this tight grand cross, we are both drawing on past experience and also stepping into a new and an unknown. And we're kind of forced to stand at this crossroads. between the decision and the action and the past and the present and the future to truly connect with what we need in this moment and what we have learned up until this point. The next card is very Uranian. We have the Fool. It's also not lost on me that we have the card of Uranus and we have the card of Taurus. That's currently where Uranus is retrograde, which is its kind of final retrograde before it goes officially, as I mentioned earlier in the video, back into Gemini. So we're in the last phases of this Uranus Taurus moment. What have you learned? What did this lesson teach you? I'm pretty for sure the ingress of Uranus and Taurus was 2011. So what started in 2011 that got you here? What was percolating in the place where Taurus is in your chart that got you here? And that is your Hierophant in this moment. And then think about, when Uranus was in Taurus earlier this year for a couple of months, what started to crack open? What started to formulate and really reveal itself? Who is emerging? What fool's journey did you begin on? This Crossroads, and I keep using Crossroads because the bottom of the deck, we have the Two of Swords. And whenever I see the Two of Swords, there are options, there are choices to make. Whenever I get this in a love or karmic reading, we are not dealing with a person who has a fixed road. We are dealing with someone who has a choice. And those are the hardest situations to read for because there is more than one path that can be taken. So in this moment, what path are we moving into? Where are we headed? How are we shifting from the past into the future, which also becomes the past the minute you step into it? And recognizing that that's how it is. We also have this Page of Wands here. And I think it's really interesting because we started off this reading with a King of Wands. While we know what we want, we are also learning what we want. And it feels very kind of quantum. We see research on like how multiple existences can possibly exist and how space and time aren't really real. And, we are both at the beginning and end of things at the same time. And so this eclipse is asking us to live in duality. It's asking us to live between timelines, to live between beliefs, to live between what we've lost and what we've gained and where we're headed, and how hard it is to walk away from things, and how exciting it can be to walk towards something without being afraid of what we've left behind and what might happen if what we're moving towards also hits the rearview mirror, and having the courage to live in that moment and be like, the cost of that is worth the price. The cost of hope and faith is worth the loss that always happens when you invest in something. Even if everything goes well, you will lose things. So yeah, sit in this complexity, knowing that we are both at a point where we know exactly what we need and at the beginning of knowing anything about ourselves, which is a very beautiful kind of thought. And this is also kind of here. We have the 0 and the 5. The 5 is kind of like a halfway point in any journey, and the 0 is the beginning of something. We're both halfway through and at the freshest part of something that is just beginning. Well, I didn't know if I was going to read this, but I think we need to. I think it is very much a part of this moment. The second card at the bottom of the deck is the Hanged One. This isn't a moment where we're going to suddenly get emotion, even though we do have the wands here. We do have air cards. This is a moment of choice. Who are you going to choose as you step into the future? Who are you going to suffer for? What are you going to suffer for in order to get what you want? Because unfortunately in life, sacrifices usually always happen. Someone with a really hard Saturn placement, sacrifices are just a part of existing. And what are we willing to sacrifice in order to gain something that is just around the corner, that is coming towards us, that we don't know quite what it is yet? I mean, to be able to sit in the discomfort of this moment, knowing that if we can sit, we will get a choice. And if we make the choice that we desire, no right or wrong. then we will be moving into this kind of plethora of newness and wisdom and knowledge and a new, refreshed connection to self that is both solid and firm and ever changing. Um, that is my reading for this Gemini moment. It is complicated, it is both fluid and fixed. All of these cards are a combination, all 6 of these cards is a combination of oppositions, beginning and endings, youth versus age, knowledge versus innocence, choice versus no choice. We can exist in the boths and the ands, and we're being asked to do this in this full moon in Gemini. And we are going to have an opportunity to take steps forward once we get to the new moon in Sagittarius at 28 degrees in 2 weeks, but not yet. We need to sit here, sit with our thoughts, sit with our desires, sit with our beliefs, and really get clear with what we are willing to do in order to gain the things that we deserve. That might involve leaving people behind, that might involve taking scary risks, it might involve just waiting and seeing what the universe has for us. But whatever it is for you, I want you to honor that if you can in this moment. Anyways, my dears, I hope you all have a blessed full moon in Gemini. If you have any questions or comments, please pop them below and please like and subscribe. And I wish you all of the gifts that a Grand Cross brings. And I wish you ease as you navigate the tension of this moment, or at least peaceful discomfort. Anyways, I'll see you all later. Bye.